Hi there folks, I'm with Tim Jones from Rebellion to talk a little bit more about Zombie Army Trilogy, which we've just got a bit of hands-on time with, and before we get into all of that and talk about all the new stuff that's coming through, you guys released Sniper Elite 3 last year,
That's right.
and you've had a pretty good response. We gave it a good review over on Dealspone.
Thank you, appreciate it.
What's the sort of reaction that you guys have had from the public from the release so far?
Oh, we're absolutely thrilled with the reaction, as you can imagine. I mean, it was it was a #1 hit, and we got like all the things we wanted to improve upon from Sniper Elite V2. Got pretty much universal acclaim for actually having improved upon those things and delivering those things that people were really after in terms of better stealth gameplay and more choice and like sandbox style gameplay and like non-linear approach to the action, and to bring something fresh to it as well with the new Africa campaign as well. So it was we're really thrilled that like people warm to it, particularly the the fans of the first games as well as they did. So yeah, don't know what else to say really. It's just great. Yeah.
It's always good to get a good response for all this sort of thing.
That's why we do it.
Absolutely. But of course, we're here to talk about Zombie Army Trilogy, which is going to be coming out on PS4, PC, and Xbox One.
That is correct. No
last gen for this time. Can you talk a little bit about the changes that you've added in, or the new campaign that you've added in? Because of course you've got the ones from V2 that you released, which was Zombie Army 1 and Zombie Army 2, but we've got this third campaign that was been added. What can we expect from that one?
Okay, well, Zombie Army 1, Zombie Army 2 obviously had their whole, their campaigns themselves. The third one, this time around, we've been teasing him all along, Hitler's in there. He needs to be dealt with. This time around, the third campaign is all about tracking down Hitler and taking him down in his zombie demonic form, as it ultimately turns out. And that's the focus of the campaign, but we've also brought in some really exciting new environments. We've got sort of forests and Hitler's castle in the mountains, and his factory where he's like creating all his unholy creations as well. It's got like all sorts of exciting new stuff in. We've been able to add things like sort of friendly survivor characters in there as well, and various sort of sub-objectives and sub-missions. So there's a whole bunch of cool stuff for people to get stuck into. And we've also had the opportunity to really soup up a lot of the stuff across the game, in addition to remastering and improving the previous campaigns from the previous games. We've got new features like the dismemberment that wasn't previously in there, so you can shoot the legs and arms off zombies, slow them down, blow them up, all the things you kind of want to do to zombies, obviously. And a whole bunch of new characters. We've got new playable characters as well as enemy characters, and there's now 8 characters you can choose from to play as, 4 of which are female this time around, which is really cool. A lot of the fans have been asking for that, and something we wanted to put in. So we were like, okay, let's do this. Why not? And in particular, the new Horde mode is something that we've been getting a lot of calls for, that's got 5 specifically designed environments for it as well, and that's kind of where we expect a lot of players to be coming back to again and again and again, just seeing how far they can get and competing with each other for scores as well. Because we've reworked the scoring system in the game as well, so we've got a new combo system. So you keep shooting those zombies, as long as you don't miss, then your combo will keep going up, and you can start getting exponentially higher scores, which is it's a whole nother layer of challenge for those people that have just like really get used to just the survival aspect. It's like, right, now get really good at it. It's a lot of fun.
Now, obviously, with Sniper Elite 3 coming out, bigger environments and those sort of things, but what other aspects did you take from that into improving the Zombie Army Trilogy?
Well, there's been a lot of upgrades to the engine over the time from when we first started with Nazi Zombie Army 1. So we've got new lighting systems in there, we've got new vegetation tech, better use of instances and various technical things under the hood that make it run a lot faster, a lot smoother. It's much more efficient, and we've got better animation in there. We've got new motion capture data, new material effects. So there's all sorts of cool stuff in there that is just going to enhance the experience for everybody.
You mentioned the new characters. Can you tell us a bit more about the ones that you've actually added in?
Okay, so well, the original 4 characters. The idea was it's a mix of all of the previously warring factions are all now united against the zombies. So we had the American, the Russian, the German, and the civilian. This time around, we added a French woman who's a resistance fighter. We've added a Russian female sniper as well, who wants to get in, who's actually represents some of the best and most effective snipers in the Russian army were women in World War II. We really wanted to sort of represent that. It's a fantasy game, yes, but we've still always got an eye to historical detail and accuracy, so we can't help ourselves. And we've got a German woman in there as well, who's wearing the Nazi officer's uniform of the guy who actually was responsible for killing her family. So there's a little bit of backstory to all of them, and we've got an English female, previously portrait painter as well, and she's turned zombie killer.
You sort of mentioned how you've gone for a lot more backstory this time around with all the NPCs and the subplots and that sort of thing. So how much depth are we going to? Is it sort of like one of those things where people will be able to go out there and explore and sort of learn bits and pieces about this world that you've created?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the story isn't really. I mean, apart from the obvious about taking down Hitler, the story isn't really front and center in the game. The game is all about it's all about action, gameplay, fighting together, shooting zombies. It's not a cinematics, I don't know, quick time event driven kind of scripted event kind of game. It's all about the gameplay and being dynamic and reacting to the player. But all those little details we've got in there, little backstories for characters and details in the world, whether it's artwork on the walls, propaganda artwork, graffiti here and there. There's thought and care that's gone behind all of that, and so for the observant fans or players, they'll get a sense that there's a depth to the world and that it does all connect behind the scenes. And you don't have to pay attention to that stuff, but if you're really want to engage with the world, as we found huge numbers of our players do, then it's there. We have been obsessing about those details, and it's been a lot of fun to do so.
Yeah, so I spoke to Chris Payton last year at the Gadget Show Live about Sniper Elite 3, and he was going on about all the little details that I used putting in, obviously being part of the art team. What would you say is perhaps your favourite sort of little detail that's been thrown in there?
I guess one of my favourite details, you probably saw me show it earlier actually, is the safe rooms in the game, which are these little oases of calm between the zombie killing action where you can retool and pick up more weapons. They look like they've been set up by mysterious survivors who've previously been through there, and they're marked out with a smiley face that's been painted on board outside the door. And this time around, I mean, it was always a bit okay, so who's been painting these smiley faces around in this zombie apocalyptic world? And we actually present the guy in the Survivor HQ who's there with his easel and painting these smiley faces on his easel, which are presumably being shipped out to these various places in the world for the resistance fighters to have their little moments of calm before carrying on with the action. So yeah, it was just nice to suggest a little story behind the scenes there, behind one of these perhaps more gamey, slightly more incongruous things, in a world of glowing-eyed zombies. Yeah, there's been someone out there industriously doing all the work.
Now, of course, you mentioned the Horde mode, which is obviously probably going to be a very popular feature because it's a popular game mode. There's going to be the whole scoring aspect to it, which you mentioned. Are there going to be sort of online leaderboards that people will be able to go on to show off we're the best team, but then at the same time, but I'm the best one on that team? Are we going to have that sort of feature online as well?
We've got all the online leaderboards, so yes, absolutely, people will be able to see their ranking in the world with their friends or against strangers. And it's something that we're seeing individually in local games. Yes, it's a cooperative game, and you're supposed to be playing together, but because you can see the 4-player scores in the top right-hand side of the corner and the order that they're in, and with the combo scoring system there, you quickly discover that people start getting really competitive about the scores that they've got going on there. So you're being cooperative, trying to survive together, but at the same time you're just trying to get to the top of the leaderboard amongst your friends, and sometimes that means you're focusing on your combo more than survival, and that can have you come a cropper, and then you're you're asking, then you're requiring them to save you so that you can all carry on, because if one man's down, that's fewer people to deal with the same number of zombies, which may offer more scoring opportunities, but is going to be a lot harder. So, there's always that risk-reward kind of challenge for people to deal with.
Yeah, because we didn't get into the chance with the horde mode, but in the campaign we came across some of the harder enemies which do pop up in the hard mode, those super soldiers, and they are tough. They really took a while to try and take down. What would you say is the highest round that you've actually got up to in the horde mode? Because obviously we're saying these hard enemies are going to keep coming. It's like, in the office, what's the highest that you've got through?
Well, I believe there is an achievement for reaching wave 10 in all 5 horde maps, if I remember correctly, and we had to work really hard to prove that it was actually possible to do that. Even as we know these levels inside out, we designed them and made them, but they are, they've got emergent gameplay and like randomized enemies, and it gets tougher and tougher. So if anyone's getting past wave 10, they are doing extraordinarily well. Maybe they've been playing the game too much. No, you can never play the game too much. But beyond that, it continues getting harder and harder and harder. So I'm really interested to see how far people will get out there, because we know that people will be an awful lot better than us. It's always the way, so many people out there, there'll be people that surprise us and you're like, really? Wow, okay. So we just hope it continues getting challenging enough for them to feel challenged.
Awesome. Right, well, I'm going to finish off with one more question for you. Very simple. In your opinion, what is the most badass thing about Zombie Army Trilogy?
What is the most badass thing about Zombie Army Trilogy? I think the most badass thing about Zombie Army Trilogy is the fact that you finally get to directly take down Zombie Hitler himself.
I can't think of a better answer to that question. It's pretty impressive. But anyway, thank you ever so much, Tim, for taking the time to chat to us. Stay tuned to the channel, because we will be back with more coverage of Zombie Army Trilogy. But that's it for now. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.